Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're going to be taking a look at a true crime case that's pretty infamous. And we're going to be talking about Harvey Glatman.
Wow.
Yeah, Harvey Glatman. And as always,
Yeah.
we're going to be using Wikipedia as our main source.
Okay.
But Harvey Glatman has a couple of nicknames that he's known by. One is the Lonely Hearts Killer, and the other is the Glamour Girl Slayer.
Wow. Those are some pretty intense nicknames.
They are. They are. So that kind of gives you an idea of maybe what we're going to be talking
Yeah,
about.
for sure.
And one of the things that really struck me
Yeah.
when I was looking at this case was that his IQ was a 130.
Wow.
Yeah. So genius level.
Yeah. But he used it for evil.
Yeah. He was using it for very, very bad things. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that surprise you, or is that something?
Well, I mean, it's definitely surprising, but I will say that we see that a lot in criminal psychology.
Oh, really?
Where somebody has a very high intelligence, but instead of using it for good, they use it to manipulate and do really bad things.
Yeah, because I guess it would make you better at hiding your crimes and
Exactly.
planning and all that.
Exactly. They're able to kind of stay one step ahead
Oh, wow.
of the law.
That's disturbing.
Yeah.
So going back even further, I know that his childhood had some troubles. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So as a young boy, there were already kind of signs that something wasn't quite right. For instance, he would tie a string around his, for stimulation, or he would tie a rope around his neck and pull it tight.
Wow. That's not normal kid behavior.
No, not at all. And actually, his mother took him to the doctor.
And what did the doctor say?
The doctor told her that he would grow out of it, which obviously, as we know now, he did not.
No, that's not something you grow out of.
And these were really early red flags that something was wrong.
So then as he gets older, things kind of escalate.
Right. So as a teenager, he starts breaking into women's apartments, stealing lingerie.
Okay.
And, from there, it just continues to escalate to the point where in 1945, he's convicted of kidnapping and sexually assaulting a woman.
And he was still a teenager then?
He was 18, so yes, still a teenager.
Wow.
And for that, he was sentenced to 5 to 10 years in Elmira Reformatory.
Okay.
And then he was later transferred to Sing Sing.
Wow. Sing Sing's
Sing Sing's prison.
Yes, very much so. And while he was there, he was actually officially diagnosed with psychopathic personality, which was a term that was used back then.
I'm not really super familiar with that term. Can you maybe explain what that means?
Sure. So it's important to remember that the terms that they used back then in psychology and psychiatry are different from the terms that we use now.
Right. Things have changed a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. So psychopathic personality was kind of a catch-all term that they used to describe a range of antisocial personality types and behaviors.
So what does that mean for Glatman then? So for Glatman, they basically determined that he had a lack of empathy, a lack of remorse, and a general disregard for social norms.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty intense.
So even back then, I mean, this diagnosis, along with his crimes, I mean, that paints a pretty grim picture of his mental state.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's eventually paroled in 1948, and unfortunately, he doesn't change his ways.
Right.
And in 1957, he moves to Los Angeles.
Okay.
So do you think it was intentional that he moved to a city that was known for having, aspiring actresses and models?
It's really impossible to say for sure what was going on in his mind.
Right.
But it's definitely a chilling thought, right?
It's very creepy.
Was he going there to target these people?
Yeah, because it's the perfect place to find victims if that's what you're looking for.
Exactly. A lot of young women who are hoping to make it big.
Right.
They're vulnerable.
Yeah. A lot of, maybe naive people, I guess.
Exactly.
I guess that's where he starts to earn those nicknames.
Right.
The Lonely Hearts Killer and the Glamour Girl Slayer.
Yeah.
And it seems like he kind of had a specific tactic for luring his victims.
He did. He would present himself as a professional photographer.
Okay.
And he would promise these women, these aspiring models, work in pulp magazines.
Wow. So he's really preying on their dreams.
Exactly.
That's so disturbing.
It is. It's really using their ambition against them.
Yeah.
And their desire for success.
And it's almost more disturbing than if it were just outright violence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's manipulation. Yeah. It's a violation of trust. It makes it even more sinister.
Yeah. Because they trusted him and thought that he was going to help them with their careers and all that.
And instead, he does this to them.
Yeah. That's awful. And so during this time, he commits the murders he's most known for, right?
Yes.
Um,
Judith Dull, Ruth Mercado, and Shirley Ann Bridgeford.
and I read about Shirley Ann Bridgeford. Is her case different? Or what's special about that case?
Yeah, so he met Shirley Ann through a Lonely Hearts ad in the newspaper.
Yeah.
So you can imagine she's just looking for, maybe a companion,
Right. To
maybe
read something.
even love.
Yeah.
And then she meets this guy, and it turns out he's a predator.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most disturbing things about this whole case is he was targeting people who were looking for connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he used that against them.
It adds another layer of, just awfulness to
Right.
this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's just...
Like salt in the wound almost.
Yeah, exactly. Just taking advantage of people when they're at their most vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's really terrible.
So he was also suspected in another murder, right? Boulder Jane Doe.
Right. So she was found in 1954.
Okay.
But they didn't know who she was for the longest time.
Really?
It took 55 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And in 2009,
Okay.
they finally identified her through DNA
Oh, wow.
as Dorothy Gay Howard
Okay.
from Phoenix, Arizona.
Wow. It's kind of amazing that technology was able to kind of bring some closure to that case.
Right. That's one of the great things about DNA technology now is that we're
Yeah.
able to solve some of these cases that have been cold for so long.
Yeah. So how did they finally catch Glatman?
Well, in 1958, he attempted to kidnap a woman named Lorraine Vigil.
Okay.
And a patrolman just happened to be driving by and saw what was happening
Oh, wow.
and intervened.
Wow. What are the odds?
I know, right?
It's like out of a movie or something.
It really is.
That's crazy.
It's amazing how these things happen, where you just happen to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
It's like fate or something.
Wow. That's crazy. So he's caught in the act.
Yeah. He's caught in the act
of
kidnapping this woman.
This woman. And so during the arrest, Glatman ended up confessing to 3 murders right then and there.
Wow. So right when they arrested him, he just...
Right on the spot.
Oh my God. What do you think was going through his mind at that point? I mean, it's tough to say. Could have been panic.
Yeah.
Could have been desperation.
Yeah.
Could have been even just a weird sense of relief at being caught.
Right.
Who knows? But either way,
yeah,
it was a huge turning point in the investigation.
Yeah, for sure. Did it lead to anything else?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
So he led the police to a toolbox.
Okay.
And inside were all these photos of his victims.
Oh, my God. Like he had kept them.
Yeah.
It's so creepy.
And they were pretty graphic, documenting his crimes in detail.
Wow. I can't imagine being one of the officers and opening that toolbox and just...
talk about a punch to the gut. Here's this toolbox, and you open it up, and it's just all this darkness.
So they weren't just random photos. They were
No, they were very deliberate, almost like trophies,
Oh, that's so gross. So almost a need to relive it?
Yeah, or a need to control them even in death.
God, that's awful. And all this is going on while he's living this seemingly normal life?
Right. He blended right in.
Right.
Nobody suspected a thing.
So creepy. It really shows you that monsters don't always look like monsters.
Exactly.
They can be anyone.
Anyone.
Yeah, that's really disturbing. So his trial must have been a big deal, right?
Oh, yeah. It was huge.
It was all over the news.
Huge media sensation. Everybody was talking about it.
Genius serial killer.
Exactly. I mean, that was the thing, right?
Yeah.
He was supposed to be so smart, but he did these horrible things. It was this big contradiction.
What happened at the trial?
Well, they found him guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder.
Wow.
And sentenced him to death.
Okay.
But here's the thing. He just accepted it.
Really?
No protest. He even asked the warden not to intervene.
So he was just kill me.
Basically. It's he'd given up or something.
That's bizarre. Do you think he felt guilty?
Maybe. Some psychologists think that people who do these kinds of things might actually want to be punished. Deep down, they feel so bad about what they did that they're almost seeking it out.
Wow. I never thought about it like that.
Or maybe he just saw death as an escape.
Yeah, maybe. Just a way out of it all.
The burden of his actions was just too much.
Yeah.
It's a real psychological puzzle.
Yeah. Fascinating, but also really disturbing.
Definitely.
So he was executed in 1959.
Yep. September 18th, 1959.
Okay.
Gas chamber at San Quentin.
Wow.
End of his reign of terror.
Yeah.
But the thing is, his case still resonates today, you know?
It does. Like, it really gets under your skin.
Yeah, and I think that's partly why there have been so many media portrayals of him.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Didn't the 1966 Dragnet movie
Yes.
kind of take inspiration from him?
That's right, the one directed by Jack Webb,
Okay.
loosely based on Glatman's crimes.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, and they even used some of his real statements to the police in the dialogue.
Wow, really?
It's crazy how real life can inspire fiction like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially in crime stories.
There's this one line from the movie that really sticks with me. The suspect says, "The reason I killed those girls was because they asked me to."
Oh, yeah.
They did. All of them.
Chilling line.
Yeah. And then when they asked you to, he says, "Sure." They said they'd rather be dead than be with me.
Wow.
I get chills just thinking about it.
It's like he's trying to twist reality, you know, make
Yeah.
it seem like it was their fault,
Yeah.
justifying his actions.
And it's just so sad because obviously the victims aren't there to speak for themselves.
Right. They don't get to tell their side of the story.
It's just so important to remember that these are real people, you know?
Absolutely. With families and loved ones,
Yeah.
their lives were shattered.
And their stories are often forgotten.
Yeah. We get caught up in the killer's story,
Right.
but it's important to remember the victims.
Yeah, totally. It's so easy to forget about them.
And the Dragnet connection goes even deeper.
Oh, really? How so?
Captain Pierce Brooks, who actually worked on Glatman's case.
No way.
Yeah, he was a technical advisor for the film.
Wow. So he was like right there on set.
Yeah, making sure it was accurate.
Wow.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, that's amazing. Makes the film even creepier knowing that
Yeah,
it was so close to reality.
for sure. And you know, the film actually did really well.
Oh, yeah.
And it's part of the reason why NBC decided to bring back Dragnet as a TV show.
So, in a way, Glatman's crimes led to the revival of Dragnet.
In a roundabout way, yeah.
That's crazy.
It's weird how these things connect, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
So Dragnet wasn't the only media to reference him, though, right?
Nope. He's popped up in other places, too. Like the Netflix show Mindhunter.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And James Ellroy even mentions him in his memoir, My Dark Places.
Wow. So he really has had a lasting impact on pop culture.
Yeah, definitely. Even though it's such a dark and disturbing case,
Yeah.
people are still fascinated by it.
Yeah, I can see why.
Part of it is probably the horror of it all, but
Mhm.
I think it's also because he was so hard to categorize, you know?
Like, he didn't fit the mold of what people think a serial killer should be.
Exactly. He was smart.
Yeah.
He seemed normal,
Right.
but underneath it all, he was a monster.
Yeah. That's always the scariest kind, I think.
Yeah, for sure. You never know who you're really dealing with.
So there's another killer who's been compared to Glatman.
Right. Harvey Glatman,
Okay.
the want ad killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the similarities there?
Well, they both targeted women through personal ads,
Okay.
took advantage of that desire for connection.
Yeah.
They were masters of deception,
Right?
building trust,
Yeah.
and then betraying it in the worst way possible.
It's so scary because it shows that even something as simple as a personal ad can be dangerous.
Absolutely. You never know who's lurking on the other side.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So if we kind of zoom out a bit
Yeah.
and look at Glatman's case in a broader context, what does it tell us?
Well, I think it really highlights the dangers of isolation, you know,
Yeah.
how easy it is for predators to target people who are feeling alone or vulnerable.
And Glatman specifically targeted women who were looking for fame and fortune.
Right. Their dreams made them vulnerable.
Wow. That's sad.
It is. It's really tragic.
And then the whole thing with his intelligence.
Yeah. It shows that being smart doesn't mean you're a good person.
Yeah, for sure.
Evil can be intelligent, too.
Right. Scary thought.
It is. It means we have to be even more careful.
Yeah, absolutely. So no easy answers, I guess?
Nope. Human nature is complex.
Yeah.
There's no simple explanation for why people do bad things.
Right.
But we can learn from cases like this.
So what can we learn from Glatman's case?
Well, first of all, we need to be aware of the warning signs.
Right.
Especially in kids and teenagers.
Like the stuff he was doing as a kid.
Exactly. Those were red flags.
Yeah.
We can't ignore that kind of behavior.
So early intervention is key.
Absolutely. Therapy, support, anything to help these kids get on the right path.
Yeah. It's about creating a safety net
Exactly.
so they don't fall through the cracks.
And we need to make it okay to talk about mental health.
Yeah, that's so important.
There shouldn't be a stigma.
And what about the fact that Glatman exploited people's dreams? How do we protect people from that kind of manipulation?
We need to teach people to be more discerning, to
Yeah.
question things that seem too good to be true.
Like those modeling offers he was making.
Exactly. And we need to encourage people to trust their gut.
Yes.
If something feels wrong,
Yeah.
it probably is.
Right.
And we need to make it safe for victims to come forward.
Yeah.
We need to listen to them.
And believe them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to create a culture where people feel supported.
So it's all about education and awareness.
Absolutely.
But also about accountability.
Right.
Like in industries where there's a power dynamic, like in modeling.
Exactly. We need safeguards to prevent abuse.
So while we may never fully understand why Harvey Glatman did what he did,
Right.
his story serves as a reminder that darkness can exist anywhere.
Yeah. Even in seemingly ordinary people.
And that we need to be vigilant.
We need to support each other.
Yeah.
And work together to create a safer world.
I agree. So thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the life and crimes of Harvey Glatman.
Yeah.
It's been a chilling journey, but an important one.
Definitely.
And as always, we encourage you to keep exploring,
Yeah.
to keep asking questions,
And keep learning.
even when the subject matter is dark,
Exactly.
because knowledge is power.
And power can be used for good.
Yeah. And it's so easy to focus on, like, the who and the how
Right.
of these crimes. But we also have to look at the why.
Yeah, the big question.
Yeah, like what made him.
The million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's no easy answer. I
Yeah.
mean, we can look at his childhood,
Right.
those disturbing behaviors that
Yeah.
nobody really addressed
Right.
that could be part of it.
Yeah.
And then there's the diagnosis of psychopathic personality,
Right.
which, like we said, is an outdated term.
Yeah.
But it does give us some insight into his lack of empathy,
Right.
his disregard for social norms.
Yeah.
But even with all that information,
Yeah.
it's still a mystery.
Yeah.
We may never really know
Yeah.
what turned him into a killer.
I guess that's part of what makes it so disturbing.
Right? Like, it could happen to anyone. There's no way to predict it.
So even though we can't fully explain, like, why he did it,
Yeah.
what can we learn from his case?
I think there are a few things.
Okay.
First of all, we need to pay attention to the warning signs.
Right.
Especially in kids.
Like the stuff he was doing.
Yeah. Like tying the string around his...
Right. Oh,
and the rope around his neck. Yeah.
that's not normal.
No, not at all.
So we need to take that kind of behavior seriously.
Exactly. We need to intervene early.
Okay.
Get these kids the help they need.
Like therapy.
Therapy, support groups,
Right.
whatever it takes.
It's about creating a system
Yeah.
where these kids don't fall through the cracks.
Exactly.
And we have to talk about mental health more openly.
Yes, absolutely.
It shouldn't be a taboo subject.
Right. It's okay to not be okay. And it's
Yeah.
okay to ask for help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And we also talked about how he exploited people's dreams.
Right.
So how do we protect people from that?
Well, we need to teach people to be more skeptical,
Okay,
to not believe everything they hear,
right.
especially when it comes to things like modeling.
Yeah,
It's a very competitive industry.
yeah,
And there are a lot of people out there
right.
who will take advantage of that.
So it's about being smart
Yeah.
and doing your research.
Exactly. And trusting your gut.
Right.
If something feels off,
Yeah.
walk away.
And if something happens,
Yeah,
it's important to report it.
absolutely. Don't be afraid to speak up.
Yeah.
Your voice matters.
And we need to create an environment
Yeah.
where people feel safe coming forward.
Exactly. We need to support victims and
Yeah.
believe them.
So even though we may never fully understand Harvey Glatman,
Right.
his case is a reminder to be careful,
Yeah.
to look out for each other.
And to work towards a world
Right.
where these kinds of tragedies are less likely to happen.
Well, thank you for taking us on this deep dive. It's been a
Yeah.
really chilling look
Definitely.
at a really dark case.
But it's important to learn from these things.
Right.
So we can try to prevent them from happening again.
I agree. And as always, we encourage our listeners to keep learning,
Yeah.
to keep asking questions,
And to never stop exploring.
even when the subject matter is tough.
Exactly. Knowledge is power.
And we can use that power to make the world a better place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.